So, give us a little background of your training. Training looked like for you over the years.
So, from weight training or just generally?
Yeah, generally.
Probably been training for about 10 years. Before that, just played loads of sport, always did netball, athletics. Finished school, went to uni, and actually at that point I started going to the gym. There's a gym in the uni, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I was mainly either on the cardio machines or on like the fixed resistance machines, like doing some leg press, doing some like hip abduction, not really knowing what, just kind of copying what everyone else was doing. And then I found after uni, when I came back to London, I was like started working in London and started going to like classes where I do like body pump, other circuit style sessions, and decided that I wanted to become a PT. Like I was really impulsive in my decision, and yes, literally became a PT, and then started like learning so much as I was going, looking around me being like, I really don't know that much. All these other PTs know so much more than me. And it was then that I actually invested in myself from a training point of view and got a coach, really wanted to try and nail the main lifts in strength training. And that was the main aim at that point, really. And then, yeah, that was how I got into it.
What kind of gave you the initial nudge to become a PT then?
I'd worked for 5 years in a marketing job that I didn't hate. I thought, I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I left uni, so I just sort of went into a marketing job because loads of other people did. I did enjoy it, but I just looked at people that were older than me in the job and thought, oh gosh, I don't really want to be doing this in 10 years' time. And at the time I had no responsibilities or anything to worry about, so I just thought, why not? At the time I thought I was going to have a little studio and open my own thing. That was always the aim. But that's definitely not what I want to do anymore. But yeah, that was the goal really, and I just thought, oh, let me just become a PT. I thought, I love training so much. I love health and fitness. I could always see myself as a teacher as well. I thought maybe at one stage in my life I could be a teacher. So I thought the two might be a good combination, and just jumped straight into it. And there I am, nearly 10 years later, and still in it. Sorry.
So you mentioned training for the big three, so the squat, the bench, deadlift. Kind of how did that go? And then what kind of happened after that? How did kind of things training-wise evolve for you from that point?
I was already just really interested in loads of things. I was a bit of that just fleeting person that wanted to learn new skills, and I knew that kind of training as like in a powerlifting way was not going to suit me, because I was just interested in loads of things and I was never going to be incredible at those things. So I still stuck with strength and always have, but then kind of stumbled across doing some obstacle course races and then got really into that, and then my training just became really focused around that. So then I just did all the strength that I needed to be strong and resilient for those races, but then my training took a real like grip, strength-based style, just like loads of hanging and calisthenics work, just to get better at obstacle course racing.
And what races did you do, or have you done?
Do you know what? The other day, I found all my old medals, and in the space of about 2 years, I did like 30 odd races. Like, we were doing like something every month. I started off with this one. My friends all wrote me into it basically. I was training at Gym Box in London, and I got really friendly with one guy, and they have this like collective called Team Madness, and they did loads of races and events and competitions, and they invited me down to the first one, which was called Pain and Suffering. I should have known from that name. Like, there wasn't even that many obstacles in it. It was just, I remember these hills that were just literally like snaked up and down. There was loads of mud, and there were obstacles, and it was really long for me as well. It was like 20k or something like that. So yeah, it was over a long time. that was my first one and didn't put me off. So I then just entered like loads of Spartans, some nuclear, which we're going to do with T2 this year. I didn't actually ever do a Tough Mudder, you know. But yeah, loads of races in this country.
And then progressed to that quite high, right?
Yeah, I did. Well, it's one of those things. It's like, I'm never going to get the phrase right now. Big fish in a small pond. That's quite. I won a couple of races in the UK for my age category, which then wins you a place to go to the World Championships. And quite a few of my other friends also qualified. So we went to Canada to do the World Championships there, which was really cool. Amazing course. It was like on a off-season ski slope. But it was extremely humbling because basically you get a wristband, and to maintain having your wristband by the end of the course, you have to complete every obstacle. You can have as many attempts as you want at each obstacle, so you can go over and over and over and over, but if you can't complete it, they cut your wristband off. And there's like certain obstacles where you'll just get like a huge amount of people that are just there. I've seen people cry, like grown men crying and women as well. But yeah, you don't get past if you don't complete the obstacle. And I got stuck on this one about halfway round, and I must have been at this particular obstacle for about an hour and a half because I was like adamant I wasn't giving up. But then it got to the point where I was like, I'm not gonna do this.
So what was training for you over the last, I guess, few years? Obviously, level 1, all that kind of stuff. So what is that?
Yeah.
Over the last few years?
Yeah, I mean, before I had my little one, I was competing a lot. I just like got addicted to the thrill of that, and I realised quite early on that I needed something to train for, especially performance-wise, because the whole like aesthetic goals I didn't find as motivating for me. But then had my little one and kind of didn't even ever know what or how would be possible. But had her, my friends had all started getting into high rocks after being in the obstacle course world, and were like, Amy, you'd love high rocks. And I was kind of like, hadn't really been doing loads of training, had just getting back to things slowly, but basically did my first high rocks a year after having her, and that was it. I was out and back. It's still humbling, like anything you do the first time. Still had so much to work on, but I was like, okay, I can do this. I can do the training but competitively and still be a mum and still have a job and all the rest of it.
How do you make that work around what will be, I'm assuming, a very busy schedule?
If you could give me some time back, I would really love that. Yeah, it's just, look, it's a juggle. It's a massive juggle, but so many people have to juggle that much and more. I think it's all about priorities, and I realised quite quickly after having her that I needed to train. Like, I was not good if I didn't train for myself, so I made time to train, albeit now, I mean, sometimes it's a 4 a.m. slot, sometimes it's after work at 8:30. They're not ideal times, but the time I have, and you make it work.
So since Christmas, you've been pretty busy.
Yeah.
Smashing some things at the park. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I did a marathon with Luke, and then I did a 24-hour challenge about 3 weeks later. It wasn't ideal in the end, just because the whole of T2 Fit seemed to be very unwell in December, and I'd probably not left myself quite enough time to train for the marathon anyway. Luke, I'm sure everyone will know, did a mental challenge last year of doing 12 marathons once a month for the whole year. And I sort of said months before that, oh, I'll do one with you. Note to self, if you ever say anything to Luke like that, that's it. It's like sealed and like you cannot go back on your word. So yes, that ended up happening. It was also pretty icy and cold. And yeah, I had been very ill for about 2 weeks before that. Great prep, but we finished it. So yeah, that was the marathon.
And 24-hour challenge?
24-hour challenge, that I'd been wanting to do for ages. One of my friend's little boy has got a rare genetic condition. His treatment's really expensive. So I always wanted to do something physical because that's exactly what he can't do. So the 24-hour challenge idea came about, and then I just started planning the workouts. Also opened up booking slots, thinking that that's a good way to get people to donate by doing a workout, and having no idea that I would never be alone for the entire 24 hours, which still blows my mind today. But yeah, did that, 24 workouts in 24 hours.
What is the plan? What's going to happen for 2023 for you now?
I know you're going to ask this. Honestly, I just want to get back to being strong again. This kind of always happens. If I do anything quite endurance heavy, or something where endurance where my strength has to take a hit just because of the amount of other training I'm doing and the volume of that, I always kind of come off the back of that and go, oh, I feel really weak now. I just want to get my deadlift strong. I want to get my bench stronger. So that really is the main focus at the moment, just to try and get my numbers up again, feel like I'm really strong again. And then I'm sure I'll book some kind of high rocks or something else later in the year.
Is it going to be a high rocks, you think?
Probably, yeah, probably. I kind of have just scratched the itch with it, I think. And I think if I was in prime form, it is like the event for me, really, because I'm a bit of do everything. I'm not incredible at anything, but I'm all right at quite a few things. So yeah, and I feel like I could keep improving on the times that I got first and second time. So I think there's definitely unfinished business there. So I'm sure I'll do one of them.
What have been your biggest challenges from a training standpoint, but also from a professional standpoint?
In terms of like a training point of view?
Yeah. Biggest challenges?
Definitely the balance of life. Juggling that, I think, yeah. Since having Cleo, it's just, am I doing enough work? Am I training enough? Am I looking after her enough? And you never fully ever get it right. But I think as long as you just keep trying your best to do well in those things, they're the main important things. Obviously friends and family. But yeah, that's definitely the biggest challenge.
Because you also did your back, right?
Yeah.
Coming back into training from that?
At the time, this is classic me jumping around to many different things. I was training for a strong woman competition and did it in the prep for that. So it was a real proper setback. Couldn't compete, also then just couldn't train properly for a little while. But like all of these things, it was an amazing lesson just to kind of look after myself a bit more, watch the volume of what I was doing, better time for recovery and that kind of thing. So I think it just helps you learn. I've had other injuries since then, but I think learning how to train around them, then how to try and prevent those things happening again, also has given me great knowledge to help other members and other clients that I've worked with that have had back issues, kind of like having been there, having known that pain, and then rehabbed around that, puts you in quite good stead to empathise with people and help them when they're struggling. So the industry has got some incredible people in it, and there's some great, people have great knowledge, and I think that was always my thing, because I kind of launched myself straight into the industry without doing that much prior learning. It was always kind of like, am I good enough? Do I understand enough, especially around anatomy and physiology? But I've learned to trust myself a bit more, and just surrounding myself with really great coaches and good people, and always continuing to learn. I've just enrolled onto a course this year. That for me really helps me kind of keep sparking that enthusiasm and making me realise why I do this.
So you mentioned about the kind of challenges that you've had. So what about the success stories, again, both on the training front and on the work front?
It's always hard to look at them, isn't it? On the work front, it's just seeing client progression. You can't beat it. Even if they just if they come in, when they come into the gym, if they have pain or they can't move very well, or they're just not very confident. Getting them to feel confident with weights, feeling quite empowered that they can do things with their body they didn't think they could do. Seeing that and the confidence they get from that, nothing beats it. And that could keep happening for another 10, 20, 30 years. There's always different people, there's always new stories. I just think like it's just always motivating.
And personal training?
I don't know, because every time I do something I'm always like, oh, could have been a bit faster, or could have lifted a bit more. It's really, I don't know. I think coming that first competition post-baby, I was like, you know, you've made time for yourself. You actually should be proud of that. And coming back, I did like the pro division as well. It's classic me, like, don't make my life very easy. And like, didn't sink, did all right.
And what is it that keeps you coming back? Keeps coming back into the gym, keeps you coming back into competition. What is it? What drives you?
There's two things. Only after having Cleo I realised what not having training in my life was like. And I didn't really realise why I was twitchy or why I was having those days that felt really long. I was like, oh, I just feel not quite right. Then went back to training, I was like, I see why I train. So that keeps me knowing that I just need to do it all the time. Part of my life, I don't not do it. But then also the entering competitions, it just fires up this, I don't know where my competitiveness comes from. I don't know, you're laughing now. And I know I'm known for it in the gym. Like but that, I just want to win all the time, and I hardly ever do. That's the thing. I just like the thought. I'll put myself on the line. I'll go for it. And most of the time that I compete, I know there's nothing more I could have done. From a physical point of view, I'm like, literally have to do everything. But yeah, just being competitive and entering competitions keeps me going.